The alley behind the Copacabana was darker than it should have been. Someone had smashed the light above the stage door. Recently. The glass was still on the ground, glinting like teeth in the dim glow from the street 50 feet away. Sammy Davis Jr. didn't notice at first. He was riding high from the show. 2 encores. A standing ovation that lasted 4 minutes. The kind of night that reminded him why he'd spent 30 years doing this. He pushed through the stage door, already loosening his bow tie, thinking about the drink waiting for him back at his hotel. About calling his father. About tomorrow's rehearsal. He didn't see them until the door closed behind him. 3 men. Blocking his path. Large men. White men, with hands in their pockets and expressions that made Sammy's blood turn cold. He stopped walking. "Evening," Sammy said. His voice was steady, but his heart was hammering against his ribs. The man in the center was the biggest. 6'3", maybe 250. Crew cut. Thick neck. He wore a leather jacket, despite the summer heat. "You're Sammy Davis Jr., the man said. It wasn't a question. "That's right. We caught your show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it." The man didn't smile. "We didn't." The other 2 men moved slightly, widening their stance, creating a wall. Sammy's mind was racing. He'd been in situations like this before. Too many times. In too many cities. You learn to read the signs. The body language. The tone. These men weren't fans. "Well," Sammy said, keeping his voice light. "You can't please everyone. I'll try to do better next time." He moved to step around them. The big man moved too, blocking his path. "We're not done talking." Sammy stopped. He was 5'5" and weighed maybe 130, soaking wet. He'd lost his left eye in a car accident 3 years ago. He was 30 years old and exhausted from doing 2 shows a night for 3 weeks straight. And he was alone in an alley with 3 men, who clearly meant him harm. "What do you want?" Sammy asked. The lightness was gone from his voice now. "We want to understand something," the big man said. "We want to understand how He used a word that Sammy had heard 1,000 times. A word that never stopped feeling like a physical blow. How someone like you gets to perform at a place like the Copa, while good, decent people can't even get a reservation. Sammy didn't respond. Experience had taught him that in moments like this, anything you said could be used as an excuse. "You think you're something special?" the man continued. "You think because you can tap dance and sing a few songs, you're better than us?" "I don't think I'm better than anyone," Sammy said quietly. "Yeah? Then why are you staying at the same hotel as white people? Why are you eating at the same restaurants? Why are you acting like you belong?" One of the other men, this one shorter but thick through the chest, pulled something from his pocket. Not a weapon. A newspaper clipping. "We saw this," the man said, holding it up. "Picture of you with Frank Sinatra. With Dean Martin. Like you're one of them. Like you're equals." "They're my friends," Sammy said. The big man laughed. It was a cold sound. "Friends? You really believe that? You think those guys see you as a friend? You're a novelty to them. A pet, something they can trot out to show how progressive they are." Sammy felt something crack inside his chest, not because the words were true, but because he'd heard variations of them his whole life. From strangers. From critics. Sometimes from the voice in his own head at 3 in the morning when he couldn't sleep. "You've made your point," Sammy said. "Now if you'll excuse me." "We're not done," the big man said. He took a step closer. "We think you need to learn your place." The third man, silent until now, moved to Sammy's left. Flanking him, Sammy's hands were shaking. He clenched them into fists so the men wouldn't see. This was it. He was going to get hurt, maybe badly, and no one would know until someone found him in the morning. He thought about his father, about Frank and Dean, about all the people who'd told him to be careful. to not push so hard, to remember that progress had limits. And then he thought about something else. He thought about the little girl who'd waited outside the stage door earlier that evening. Black girl, maybe 7 years old, with her mother. The girl had looked at Sammy like he was made of starlight, like he was proof that impossible things could happen. "Can I be like you?" she'd asked. "You can be better," Sammy had told her. He thought about that girl now, about what it would mean if he cowered, if he begged, if he gave these men what they wanted. And something shifted. Sammy Davis Jr. stopped shaking. He looked at the big man, really looked at him. And when he spoke, his voice was calm, clear. "You're right." The three men blinked. That wasn't the response they'd expected. "I am a novelty," Sammy continued. "I am different. I don't belong in the same spaces as you. You're absolutely right about that." The big man's eyes narrowed, trying to figure out if this was sarcasm. It wasn't. "But let me tell you why I'm different," Sammy said. "I'm different because I've been performing since I was 3 years old. I learned to tap dance before I learned to read. I've done 8 shows a day in vaudeville theaters that didn't have heat in the winter or air conditioning in the summer. I've performed in towns where they wouldn't let me sleep in a hotel, where I had to change clothes in my car because they wouldn't let me use the dressing room, where they threw things at me on stage and I kept dancing." He took a breath. "I'm different because I lost my eye in a car accident and I was back on stage 3 months later. Because I worked every single day to be good enough that people couldn't ignore me. Not because of how I looked, not because of what I was born as, but because I was undeniable." The men were listening now, not agreeing, but listening. "You want to know why I stay in the same hotels as white people?" Sammy continued. "Because Frank Sinatra told the hotels that if I couldn't stay there, he wouldn't perform there. And they needed Frank more than they needed their prejudice. You want to know why I eat in the same restaurants? Because Dean Martin threatened to walk out if they didn't serve me. You want to know why I'm in newspapers with them?" He paused. "Because they chose me, not as a pet, not as a novelty, but as a brother, as family. And they fight for me every single day. They put their careers on the line. They lose money. They lose opportunities. They take heat from people exactly like you. And they do it anyway." Sammy's voice didn't rise, but it carried weight now. "So yes, I'm different. But not in the way you think. I'm different because I refuse to be small. I refuse to make myself less so that you can feel like more. I refuse to hide my talent because it makes you uncomfortable. I refuse to pretend I don't deserve the things I've earned." He looked at each man in turn. "And you know what else makes me different? I'm standing here, alone, in an alley, with 3 men who could hurt me. Who probably will hurt me. And I'm not running. I'm not begging. I'm not giving you the satisfaction of watching me break. Because I learned, a long time ago, that some things are worth getting hurt for." The silence that followed was complete. The big man's face had changed. The anger was still there. But something else was there too. Something that looked almost like confusion. "I've got nothing against you personally," Sammy said quietly. "I don't know your stories. I don't know what you've been through. What you've lost. What makes you angry enough to wait in an alley for someone you don't know?" He took a breath. "But I do know this. Whatever you think you're going to accomplish by hurting me, it won't work. You can break my bones. You can put me in a hospital. But you can't make me less than what I am. You can't take away what I've built. And you definitely can't stop what's coming." "What's coming?" the big man asked. His voice was quieter now. "Change," Sammy said. "The world is changing. And people like me, we're not going back. We're not going to stay in our place. We're not going to be quiet, or grateful, or small. We're going to keep pushing, keep fighting, keep showing up, until the world makes room for us." He smiled. It was a sad smile. So go ahead, do what you came here to do. But just know that tomorrow night, I'll be back on that stage. And the night after that. And the night after that. You can't stop me. Nobody can. The three men stood there. The big man's hands had come out of his pockets. They hung at his sides now, useless. One of the other men, the one with the newspaper clipping, looked down at the ground. And then something remarkable happened. The big man's face crumpled. Not in anger. In something else. "My brother," he said. His voice was rough. "My kid brother. He came back from Korea 2 years ago. He's been trying to find work. Good work. The kind that pays enough to support a family. But everywhere he goes, they tell him they don't have openings. They don't say why. But we know." He looked at Sammy. "And then he sees guys like you on TV, in the papers, living in nice hotels, and he doesn't understand why you get those things when he can't even get a fair shot." Sammy listened. "It's not your fault," the man continued. "I know that. But it's easy to be angry at you. It's easier than being angry at the system, at the people actually making the decisions." He paused. "My brother, he saw your show tonight. He's the one who bought the tickets. He brought us here thinking we'd, I don't know, make him feel better by making you feel worse." The man looked at his friends, then back at Sammy. "But you're right, hurting you won't help him, won't help any of us." The shorter man spoke up. "I got a daughter. She's 8. She loves to sing. We took her to see a show last year, and she said she wanted to do that when she grew up, be a performer. But there's no path for her, no way in. And I watch you on Ed Sullivan, and I think, why does he get to have his dream when my little girl can't even imagine hers?" "Because I'm not taking anything from your daughter," Sammy said gently. "I'm making it more possible for her. Every time someone who doesn't look like the right kind of person succeeds, it opens a door. Not just for people who look like me. For everyone. For your daughter, too." The third man, the silent one, finally spoke. "I'm sorry." It was barely a whisper. "We're all sorry," the big man said. This was wrong. What we were going to do." Sammy didn't say anything. "I can't promise I won't still be angry," the man continued. "I can't promise I'll understand. But I can promise we won't hurt you." He held out his hand. Sammy looked at it. Then at the man's face. Then at the other two men. And slowly Sammy reached out and shook his hand. "Thank you," Sammy said. The three men turned to leave. But the big man stopped and looked back. "That thing you said, about your friends, about them fighting for you, that's real?" "Every word," Sammy said. The man nodded. "Then you're a lucky man, and they're lucky to have you." And then they were gone. Sammy stood alone in the alley. His legs were shaking now. The adrenaline was draining out of him, leaving him hollow and weak. He made it to the wall and leaned against it. His hands were trembling. His breath was coming in short gasps. He'd talked his way out of violence with nothing but honesty. With vulnerability. With refusal to be anything less than human. But he'd also been terrified. Still was. The stage door opened. The club manager stuck his head out. "Sammy, you okay? You've been out here a while." Sammy straightened up. Smoothed his jacket. Put the mask back on. "I'm fine," he said. "Just getting some air." He never told anyone about that night. Not Frank. Not Dean. Not his father. But 3 weeks later, he received a letter. No return address. Just a few lines on plain paper. "Mr. Davis. My brother got a job. Union construction. Good pay. He's grateful. And he wanted me to tell you he's sorry. We all are. Thank you for what you said. About change. About not going back. You were right. It's coming. And maybe that's not such a bad thing. J. Sammy folded the letter and put it in his wallet. He carried it for the rest of his life.